Welcome to our webinar, AI for Strategic Portfolio Management, a Roadmap for Success. If you enjoy this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more videos and follow us on LinkedIn to be in the know for event announcements and speaking engagements.
And I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. This is probably one of the more exciting webinars I've ever been fortunate enough to give. We're on the cusp of doing something, really new in this field of portfolio management, which I certainly haven't seen in my long career. And I'm very excited to kind of show you not what the future will be, but what is actually happening today in OnePlan. First, just to kind of set the table, the importance of strategic portfolio management in today's business environment is we have kind of unsurprisingly, increasing complexity in business environments, greater need for financial and resource optimization, demand for data-driven decision-making, adoption of agile and other methodologies. This has certainly been something that has been new in the field in the last 20 years, and emerging technologies and business models. All of this wraps together, I think, probably for many people in the call in a very familiar way, to point to the importance of kind of continuing to deal with this topic of strategic portfolio management. What it is, frankly, is a method of how should we say, enabling the organization to actually do what the organization's leaders want it to do in both a measurable and reportable way. So at the top, leadership defines an enterprise-wide strategy in order that needs to be followed. We define some key business strategies and desired business outcomes, and we look at that in terms of all the things that we could do, the programs, the physical products, the applications, the investments. We go through, we capture and define those business strategies. We then come through to this and support the three key stakeholders: leadership, IT, and execution teams. Again, I'm kind of assuming that all of this is familiar, but I want to set the stage to make sure that people understand, first of all, why we're talking about this, and second of all, kind of what the mechanism is. And it'll be important later on because we're going to show some really interesting things with AI. In terms of AI, current challenges, unsurprisingly, there's a ton of hype around what Gen AI can do, and it's going to fall short in the short run. We must kind of get to the point where we're able to look at the business and functional implications of Gen AI. We want to look at this in terms of how it will impact our strategic portfolio. I think one of the things that will come up repeatedly in this webinar is the notion that Gen AI has created an assumption of speed and of kind of baseline performance that we all need to recognize and move toward. And then, in fact, how we're going to deal with what Gen AI impacts are likely to be in our environment. So how is this going to impact strategic portfolio leaders? Again, creates an immediate knowledge and skills gaps to one point. I have been fascinated to watch people work with ChatGPT and struggle to get the answers they want out of it. It does take a change in mindset. It's not a huge leap, but sometimes it works. It bears a little of extra effort. We're going to leverage and invest in Gen AI, and suddenly there's going to be a lot of stuff in the potential portfolio that we could be working on. Again, kind of coming back to the importance of strategic portfolio management. If you could do 1,000 things and you have requests to do 1,000 things and you can only do 10, you're going to want to make sure that you are rooting that in what is going to provide the most return, considering your leadership's vision. Strategic portfolio leaders oftentimes have not made the right partnerships in order to get the most out of this, so they need to get in front of that. And strategic portfolio leaders, these strategic portfolio leaders will see a change in their responsibilities as Gen AI does more and more of the work. And we're going to show some of that in this webinar, so I hope everybody is excited to see these things. Key findings according to Gartner. Look, Portfolio management leaders are pragmatic and practical in nature. If you think about it, they're often involved in long-term planning. They're involved in risk management. And these things have create a mindset of, look, we're going to change, but we're not necessarily going to change overnight. Nonetheless, Gen AI is happening very quickly. There's no way to avoid Gen AI. I can't speak for everybody, but I know for myself, I now have many tasks where I start by asking ChatGPT what I should do as a baseline, and then working from that instead of starting from a blank sheet of paper. And enterprise-wide Gen AI access will hopefully create opportunities for portfolio and management leaders to actually end up looking a lot better and succeeding in ways that maybe people haven't been able to in the past. First 3 steps, again, according to Gartner, adopt a proactive vision and approach, identify and close gaps, enable and partner, accelerate and advance. Create a practical Gen AI investment plan. Of course, when I kind of show you some of the stuff that OnePlan can do, our hope is that you choose to invest with OnePlan, but either way, this advice still holds. And then we want to look at this and track mainstream and Gen AI adoption in the enterprise. So we've been through a lot of hype cycles. There's always the new, and some things catch traction and some things don't. I think in the case of Gen AI, we're going to discover that the tools themselves are absolutely going to have traction. The question is going to be how we all use them. OnePlan provides a path to strategic portfolio management. It is a complete solution. We both have consulting. We provide strategic support. We certainly have the technology, and we bring that all together in one package. Business leaders, execution leaders, and functional leaders. Again, I don't think any of this is particularly stunning. Maybe now more interesting, particularly as far as this webinar goes, OnePlan is actually over here as an assistant for strategic portfolio management. We're well short of autonomous, but I think when we actually get to see some of what we're doing in OnePlan, it's going to be very exciting to see how assistance in SPM is going to make everybody's jobs easier, and frankly is going to make their work output a lot more credible and a lot more successful. OnePlan is branded our own little AI, Sophia GPT. It is an advanced Azure OpenAI module tailored to transform strategic portfolio and work management. I will say over and over again as we go through this webinar, it is context aware. This is an important piece. This is not a generalized knowledge-based kind of ChatGPT implementation. It is in looking at the context of what you are doing in OnePlan to answer the questions that you pose. The intuitive interaction is actually really stunning in my opinion. Again, because of this context awareness, because of the ability to answer very vague and high-level questions and the ability to then drill down into those questions. It provides answers and data at a level that, frankly, in the past would have taken looking at multiple reports and multiple windows and pulling it together into a PowerPoint deck. Sophia will do it all in one swoop. Also, of course, it is a data aggregator, and we're going to see that it also simplifies some tasks like data entry. I think all these things are very interesting. Okay, Sophia is always available in OnePlan. If you enable it, it is a configuration setting. You do not have to enable it to use OnePlan, but if you do, it is always there. And it can do many things, including kind of basic help functions. But over the course of our demonstration, you'll see that it can do a lot more than that. Use cases for Gen AI and strategic portfolio management. There are a lot of these. I'm not going to go through these in detail. I think that everybody would probably agree this is fairly comprehensive. The point being that there is a lot that can be done with Gen AI that maybe people are not quite considering yet. And we are going to show some of these things today. In fact, we're going to show a lot of these things today. Common project management tasks. Again, this is from Gartner. An estimation of the amount of time that could be saved. I'm not going to go through this in detail or what the origin is of this data, but the point that I want to make with this is that if we need to enter into a discussion about how to justify the investment in these tools, we do have starting points where we can say, listen, you know, if you invest in these tools, you can either have superior outcomes, or you can potentially save money in terms of labor and potentially take on more projects, more scope. So anytime there's a question about this, is it worth the investment? Please feel free to reach out to OnePlan and ask for help with that. All right, we're going to go to the demonstration. I am going to show some, frankly, amazing things that you may think, well, that can't really be working that way. I'm going to reiterate probably more than once that we provide free trials. Everything that I say or show in this particular demonstration is something that can be validated for yourself with one of our free trials. So this is not tomorrow technology. This is implemented and working today. We're going to go through 6 high-level cases for portfolio management, strategic planning, portfolio optimization, project work management, risk assessment, resource allocation, and investment forecasting. I'm confident at each stage that we will show something surprising in terms of what Sophia can do, and something that will immediately and obviously be useful. Okay, strategic planning with OnePlan. How can we use it to increase productivity, improve alignment, improve data-driven decision-making, and optimization? In each one of these cases, we will see that by asking a natural language question in the context of OnePlan, you will get answers that formerly would have required a report and analysis. At all points, there's still the ability to do things, of course, through basic analysis and through reporting. And, but even in those cases, you would be able to ask further detailed questions depending on what you're seeing. So on the one hand, this is very complementary to how we've always done business. On the other hand, it's really actually quite revolutionary and going to speed up how certain questions get asked or what our expectations are out of our data. Okay, provide a list of viable OKRs for an enterprise PMO. This is obviously a generic question. This is the kind of thing that as a consultant, I would be asked for all the time, because we would go in and we would want to implement something and somebody would say, well, can you give us a list of samples to work from? Now, right inside of OnePlan, we can go and ask for exactly this. Does it eliminate the need for a consultant? No, it probably puts you onto a different footing though, because right off the bat, we're able to say, oh, okay, well, here is a list of OKRs that could work for an EPMO. And from here, of course, it's not that you are then stuck with these things, but you have a starting list that isn't a blank sheet of paper that you can use and leverage immediately in your configuration of OnePlan. So if you already have OKRs, that's great, but if you don't, then again, we're in a position where you don't necessarily have to ask a consultant to do it. You can actually ask Sophia. Once we have created an OKR, we may want to have Sophia work on describing key results for this objective. And again, this is where things become context dependent. This is where things are context dependent. Sophia knows that we are in this generate more marketing qualified objective. And these are the key results we would like to possibly take from this. Again, it's going to leverage everything that you have filled in about this particular objective, and it's going to provide the possible outcomes in that context. And that time has now been saved. Analyze data to identify patterns, opportunities, and potential risks. I love these questions because they're so general. I have gathered all of my active projects. I know what they're doing. I have potential projects. I have actuals. I have objectives. I have key results. And what I want to do is just ask, what should I be paying attention to? So again, I'm able to come in, ask Sophia, all right, just give me these patterns. And right off the bat, again, in the context of my own portfolio, I'm able to identify patterns, opportunities, potential risks, and I get some recommendations. I do enjoy these recommendations. It's recommended the organization closely monitors its at-risk objectives. Of course, that's very generic, but you could drill down on that if you wanted to as well. So AI-enabled portfolio optimization with OnePlan, data analysis, prediction and forecasting, risk assessment, portfolio optimization. Probably portfolio optimization is one of the huge benefits of having implemented strategic portfolio management. If you're able to optimize your organization's return on investment and you're able to do it in a proactive way, any EPMO is going to end up looking like a star, and especially if you're able to actually quantify and justify the work that you've done on behalf of your organization. Okay, provide a summary of the portfolio data. Again, it's just another wonderfully broad question that when we ask Sophia, in effect, you will see produces a report, or what you would have had to have gathered across multiple reports in the past. You are now able to get this summary right off the bat. And at each stage as well, of course, if any of these particular items turn out to be something that you're more interested in, you're able to ask qualifying questions. Oh, now that you've summarized this, what is the highest risk project and why? And this is, again, the kind of thing that is available to us, or typically would have been available in a summary report that somebody would have needed to stipulate in design, is now available just through natural language query. Rank plans by highest risk of failure. You're looking at a basic portfolio view in OnePlan, and you can see that we have various configurable fields for project status, including red, yellow, green indicators. These are kinds of classic portfolio elements. However, now again that we have Sophia, we can just ask questions instead of having to maybe go through and rank things and gather things. And again, you may have a specific methodology that you want. Because this is context dependent, Sophia will take advantage of that. But in this case, we've asked a very kind of high level question. Hey, can you rank our projects by highest risk of failure? She, of course, provides a ton of information about those projects, each one in its ranking and why she chooses to rank it this way. From here, of course, as a portfolio manager, you can do what you need to do with this information. Maybe nothing, maybe you don't care about number 3, but maybe you do. Any data anomalies in the portfolio? Again, another wonderfully broad question, but what we're really asking about is, is this data credible? Do we have garbage data in here? Do our schedules accurately represent what we think? So we're going to ask Sophia, again, this kind of very broad question. Do you see any data anomalies in the portfolio? And again, context dependent. She knows what she's looking for. And we get back very interesting things like, in the packaging redesign, the compliance value is 42 with a long decimal. It's an unusually precise fractional value. What is happening across each one of these items? In the past, we would have built tools and reports that would have said, we're going to look at these 14 points, and any of these 14 points are amiss, then we're going to, have to dig a little bit deeper. In this case, we're able to ask, like I said, a very broad question and get back some really excellent results about what's actually going on in the portfolio. AI-enabled project and work management with OnePlan. For me personally, as a former consultant, this is a very interesting piece. I've been both a user and somebody who's helped organizations implement this. Work plan creation is an astoundingly controversial and difficult thing to templatize. There are lots of good recommendations around templatizing a work plan. And I honestly have found many, many times that people just tend to overcook it and it becomes very political. We're going to see that in a lot of ways, Sophia gets us out of the whole project template process entirely, or could in certain organizations. Schedule risk assessment, again, another item very close to me as a consultant. We used to need to go into an implementation and produce a list of risks that we then needed to monitor. And it was always a kind of an arduous and sensitive topic. Sophia eliminates a lot of that. And then finally, schedule optimization, something that everybody's always asked for, what can we do to speed things up? So we're going to drill down and we're going to create a new project using Sophia. We have multiple mechanisms for this, including voice, if that's what we wanted to. We could attach a document, but instead we're just going to provide a description and we're going to create a plan. At this point, it's not a schedule, it's just some plan details. You can see that we've automatically created it in OnePlan. It's in the initiating phase. Sophia has filled in all of these text boxes based on the prompt that you provided. Having done that, the next question usually becomes, okay, I need to do a better job with this business case. So again, leveraging Sophia, I'm going to ask her to use the PMBOK template in order to create a business case. And she provides a formatted output for this particular project, again, based on the context of the project and the original prompt that you gave her, enabling you to potentially skip out of hours and hours of work very quickly and easily, and base it on a normal methodology. Creating a work plan, this is what people typically think of as a schedule. We have multiple ways to create these things in OnePlan, but in this case, we're going to create from Sophia. We want to know how she's going to do it. She's going to do it from the plan details we just gave her. And she's going to suggest a basic work breakdown structure. Well, that's terrific. We're going to keep that. We're also going to find out how to do some resources for this. That's great. We'll add that. And now you have a starting project, fully resourced, based on your project details that we prompted early on. And I'm going to ask the question, while this looks pretty slow, how can I possibly do this project faster? Now, again, I think a lot of us, certainly with getting our PMP certification, have had to memorize a lot of these things and how they work. Sophia will provide them off the cuff for us now, any one of which can be used to consider how we would make this, how we would speed this schedule up. Again, kind of almost replacing the need for a consultant to work through all of these things. So what we just saw with that, I want to pause a moment and emphasize what the loop that we just went through. Based on a standard prompt, or not a standard prompt, based on a specific prompt, Sophia was able to both go through and fill out the configured fields that you might require for a business case in your organization. She was able to further articulate those fields depending on what you need, and also create a work breakdown structure and a schedule and resource it and suggest how to speed that schedule up. And again, all within context. It's not generic. It is generic advice, but it's generic advice based on what you're actually starting her out with. So risk identification and mitigation, identifying and categorizing risks, predicting future risks, recommending mitigation strategies. That's a key to any successful project. Again, completely context dependent. So you're going to ask, what are the risks for this project? First of all, we don't really have any identified. So Sophia doesn't have, there's nothing really to work from. We want to come in and identify the potential risks. And again, notice that she has assessed the project based on the information in OnePlan that may have also started out with Sophia, and is providing a list of potential risks that are specific to that project. They're not generic. They're not coming from, from some background book of project risks. They include things that are very tied to the project's initiative. And by the way, again, in any case, if any of these required further articulation, you can always ask Sophia to go down one level deeper. AI-enabled resource capacity planning with OnePlan. Resource capacity planning is such a critical part of succeeding in strategic portfolio management, but it often kind of takes a backseat to the project schedule. There's really no way to say it enough. If your resources are doing too much or too little, then things aren't going to go as well as you think they should. So we're going to talk about the fact that we can both start with resource allocation. We've already seen a little bit of that. We're going to talk about the capacity piece, maybe optimizing resources, and maybe even more than that, looking at predictive talent acquisition. First of all, let's ask again another great question. Let's find out resource risk. So we're going into the resource plan section of a project in OnePlan. We're going to ask, okay, what are the risks that you see, the top risks rank that you see based on the resources that we have assigned to this particular project? And again, we have a heat map. That's what we provide in OnePlan. A lot of other partners provide the same thing. But in this case, we're actually able to get very quickly a detailed rundown of why this heat map is problematic. And let's suppose that you were in a position where you needed to justify further attention to this project. You needed to justify moving resources on or off. Typically, this would have required a write-up. Sophia is now able to provide this on the spot in a numbered list, enabling the project manager in this case to go back and make a request for more resources to mitigate some of this. Okay, in this case, provide a sample resource plan by hours and months for this plan. So we've got a plan in the in OnePlan, and we've said, look, we want a resource plan to go with this. So what could this look like? I'm going to come in and say, I want to know in advance, or not in advance, but I want to know what the project resource plan might look like in terms of dates and in terms of hours per month. And again, I'm able to kind of look at this. I get the assumptions that Sophia is making, so I could come back in, change these assumptions and get a different plan. But the point being that you're no longer starting with a blank sheet of paper and trying to figure out, which role is going to be doing what in which month. You're going to be able to ask Sophia, hey, tell me what you think. Then she can go in, put this in, and you can go from there. Having saved a lot of time and probably made some considerations that you otherwise wouldn't have. So what resources do I need to hire? We used to spend a ton of time with various tools trying to figure out how to do this in a way that made sense and appeared to be unbiased. In this case, again, just leveraging what is already in your portfolio in OnePlan, we can come in and ask, instead of going through a deep analysis, we can come in and just ask Sophia to provide this answer for us. Again, very high level question, which we can always drill down on further. But she's first going to tell you why she's going to come at this, or why she's coming up with the answers that she is. And then she's going to come in and provide a ranked list of what she thinks. We can articulate this further, or we can ask a further articulating question, say how many resources per role are we really needing to talk about? We need to look at the workload and capacity, which she's doing, and now she's going to come up with an answer. So let's suppose that you're in a position, or anybody's in a position, where they get asked, I need a hiring plan. I know personally this would have led to certainly days of work in the past, maybe more, but here we are in a very short amount of time. Sophia is able to, based on the real data in OnePlan, knock out a sketch of what resource hiring might look like. Now, we have a lot of tools in OnePlan for scenario modeling and coming up with good, better, and best kinds of comparisons. So, we provide a lot of analytical support underneath this. But in this case, if I want a starting point and I need to answer a question fast, here it is. AI-powered investment forecasting and predictive analytics, predicting and forecasting costs, optimizing spending, providing real-time insights. Again, in the past, anytime I've seen or been asked a question, how do we predict and forecast cost, it has led to a ton of work. How do we optimize for spending leads to a ton of work. Sophia will make very short work of at least the first brush of this. I'm sure at this point there's a common refrain. So let's ask Sophia to look at our current budget forecast and say, what are the key insights or trends that can be inferred from the financial data? Very interesting to me, at least, when I see these answers come up. Wow, I'm actually getting some leverageable information. The business analyst is all OpEx, for example. Notable increase in budget allocated to the developer. Project manager expenses show an unusually high spike. So in the past, I might have spent a lot of time looking at this stuff, looking at charts and looking at reports and wondering what they showed. Now I'm able to just ask Sophia a broad question. What should I even be looking for? And she again provides that and then goes on to provide recommendations about what you might do. And if you say thank you to her, you get a very nice answer. So in summary, and I hope you guys have been as excited by this as I have been, strategic portfolio management has been and continues to be an important part of today's business environment. Complexity is only increasing. AI is advancing rapidly. I want to pause on this and say, I hope that based on what you've seen, you realize that AI is not a future technology. It is today. It's important to monitor the use of AI in other parts of the organization. Absolutely. For those of us in the business of portfolio management, we don't want to come across as Luddites, especially not when the tools are already here. AI has many applications. OnePlan itself provides an end-to-end strategic portfolio management solution in the Microsoft Cloud. Again, I think this is an important point. Everything you've seen here is operating in a context. So in your case, or in anybody's case, it would be an implementation of OnePlan configured to your unique needs that you would then be asking Sophia questions about. And finally, the use of AI provides valuable assistance and insights. I think we've demonstrated that amply from our ability to use Sophia to start writing a business case, to suggesting a project schedule and a work breakdown structure, and finally to being able to ask very broad questions about what is going on and get good answers that you might not have noticed otherwise. OnePlan consistently recognized as a market leader, Microsoft Global PPM leader for 5 consecutive years, Gartner, Forrester, Infotech. We have been around a long time. We have hundreds of clients. You are buying into a stable and growing company if you choose to work with us. Free trials. I have suggested this earlier and I want to re-emphasize it. OnePlan provides free trials. We provide free trials of various types, and by types, these are configurations. They're templatized configurations that may suit what you would like. The important thing is that for everything I've claimed in this particular webinar, you are able to test this yourself and put your hands on it and see it for yourself, that this is not something that we're working on or is being built, that it's actually here today. Thank you. I'm glad. I hope this was useful and wonderful for everybody. I know I personally am very excited by this shift in technology. I think we're just starting to see what it can really do, and I think it's going to make everybody's jobs better in a way that we're not even necessarily anticipating yet.